Commander Jake Miller sat in his captain's chair, watching the stars drift past the bridge windows of the UES Ranger. The small exploration ship had been traveling through the outer edge of the Kepler system for 3 weeks now, mapping new worlds and checking for signs of life. It was quiet work, but Jake enjoyed it. After 20 years in the Earth-Space Navy, he found peace in the endless black of space. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange," called out Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks from her station. Her fingers danced across the control panel as she studied the readings. "There's an energy signature about 2 million kilometers ahead. It doesn't match anything in our databases." Jake straightened in his chair. Unknown energy signatures usually meant one of two things in space, either a new natural phenomenon worth studying or trouble. "Can you tell what it is?" Lisa shook her head. "The readings are all over the place. Whatever it is, it's putting out a lot of power, but the pattern keeps changing. It's like something is broken and trying to fix itself." Navigation officer Karen White, "Plot a course to investigate," Jake ordered. "But keep us at a safe distance. If it's dangerous, I want room to run." Karen's hands moved quickly over her controls. "Course plotted, Commander. We'll reach the contact in 40 minutes at current speed." The bridge fell quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Jake had learned to trust his crew over the past 5 years. They were good people, all volunteers who had chosen the dangerous job of exploring unknown space. The UES Ranger was one of only 12 ships Earth had sent beyond the solar system, and each crew knew they might not come home. "Commander," said Communications Officer Beth Adams, "I'm not picking up any radio signals from the contact." "If it's a ship, they're not trying to talk to anyone." Jake nodded. "Keep monitoring. Let me know if that changes." The minutes passed slowly as they approached the mysterious energy source. Through the main viewer, Jake could see the asteroid field that filled this part of space. Chunks of rock and metal drifted in the darkness, some as small as cars, others as big as mountains. "It was a dangerous place for any ship to travel," Contact confirmed, Lisa announced. "It's definitely artificial. The energy readings suggest advanced technology, but whatever it is, it's badly damaged." Jake leaned forward. "Put it on screen." The main viewer shifted to show what lay ahead. At first, Jake saw only asteroids floating in space. Then Karen adjusted the image, and suddenly they could all see it. A ship unlike anything humans had ever built hung motionless among the rocks. It was huge, easily 3 times the size of the Ranger, with a sleek design that seemed to flow like water. But the beautiful ship was clearly dying. Holes had been torn in its hull, and pieces of debris drifted away from the wreckage. "My God," whispered Dr. Sam Rodriguez from the medical station. "What could have done that to something so big?" Jake studied the alien vessel. The damage looked like weapon hits, not accidents. Someone had shot this ship to pieces and left it to die in space. "Lisa, are you reading any life signs?" The engineer worked frantically at her console. "It's hard to tell. The ship's power systems are failing, but I think there might be something alive in there. The life support systems are still running, but barely." Jake made his decision quickly. "Prepare a rescue team. Karen, take us in closer. Beth, start broadcasting on all frequencies that we're here to help." "Commander," said weapons specialist Tony Clark, "what if this is a trap? What if whoever shot up that ship is still around?" It was a good question. Jake looked at the damaged vessel again. If this was a trap, it was an expensive one. The alien ship was clearly beyond repair. "We'll stay alert, but we can't just watch someone die. That's not who we are." The next hour was the most dangerous of Jake's career. Using the Ranger's small shuttle, they carefully approached the alien ship. The hull was made of some kind of metal humans had never seen before, and the writing on the side was in a language no one could read. But the universal signs of distress were clear. The ship was venting atmosphere, its lights were failing, and time was running out. Lisa managed to find an airlock that was still working. "The atmosphere inside is different from ours, but it's close enough. We'll need breathing gear, but we won't need full space suits." Jake led the rescue team himself, along with Dr. Rodriguez and 2 security officers. They found the alien ship's interior just as strange as its outside. The corridors were too tall for humans, and everything was designed for someone much larger. Emergency lights cast eerie shadows on the walls, and the air smelled of ozone and something else they couldn't identify. They found the ship's pilot in what looked like a control room. Jake's first sight of an alien being was something he would never forget. The creature was huge, at least 7 feet tall, with skin that looked like blue crystal. It had 4 arms instead of 2, and its face was longer than a human's, with large eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. It was unconscious and badly hurt, with what looked like burns across its chest and arms. "It's alive," Dr. Rodriguez said after checking the creature with his medical scanner. "But just barely. We need to get it back to our ship right now." Moving the alien was not easy. It was heavy, and its body was shaped differently than a human's. But Jake's crew worked together, and within an hour they had the creature safely aboard the Ranger. Dr. Rodriguez worked for 3 straight days to save its life, using every medical technique he knew and some he invented on the spot. The alien finally woke up on the 4th day. Jake was in the medical bay when it happened, and he watched as the creature's large eyes slowly opened. For a moment they just stared at each other. Human and alien meeting for the first time in history. The creature tried to sit up, but Dr. Rodriguez gently pushed it back down. "Easy there, friend. You're hurt pretty badly." To everyone's surprise, the alien spoke. Its voice was deep and musical, and somehow they could understand the words even though it wasn't speaking English. "You saved me. Why?" Jake stepped forward. "Because you needed help. I'm Commander Jake Miller of the Earthship Ranger." "What's your name?" The alien looked at Jake with something like wonder. "I am Zethka of the Vorthak people. I do not understand." "You risk your lives for a stranger? For someone who is not of your kind?" "That's what we do," Jake said simply. "We help people who need help." Zethka was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "I am a fugitive, a criminal by the laws of my people. Those who hunt me will come. You should leave me and go before they find you." Jake shook his head. "We don't abandon people." "Tell us what happened." Over the next several hours, Zethka told them a story that changed everything. He spoke of a war that had been raging across the galaxy for decades, of governments that killed innocent people, and of his own decision to speak out against the crimes he had witnessed. He told them about the Dominion, a vast empire that controlled most of the known galaxy, and how they had branded him a traitor for trying to expose their war crimes. "I have been running for 2 years, Zethka said. "They will never stop hunting me. And now, because you helped me, they will hunt you too. I'm sorry, I have brought death to your people." Jake looked at his crew, seeing his own thoughts reflected in their faces. They had come out here to explore and discover. They had never expected to find a war or to make enemies of a galactic empire. But they had also never expected to find someone who needed their help. "We'll figure it out," Jake said finally, "but we're not going to let them hurt you." "That's a promise." Zethka stared at him in amazement. "You do not know what you are saying. The Dominion has thousands of ships, weapons that can destroy worlds. Your people you are not ready for such a war." "Maybe not," Jake admitted, "but we're ready to do what's right. And right now, that means keeping you safe. For the first time since he had awakened," Zethka smiled. It was a strange expression on his alien face, but somehow Jake knew what it meant. "I begin to understand why the universe brought me to you," the alien said. "Perhaps there is hope after all." 3 days after Zethka finished telling his story, the Ranger's alarm system screamed across the ship. Jake Miller ran to the bridge, still pulling on his uniform jacket. His crew was already at their stations, faces tense with worry. "Report," Jake called out as he took his captain's chair. Navigation Officer Karen White looked up from her console with fear in her eyes. 3 ships just dropped out of hyperspace, Commander. They're big, and they're heading straight for us." Jake felt his heart sink. They had all hoped for more time before Zethka's hunters found them. "How big?" "Each one is at least twice our size," Karen replied. "And Commander, they're armed. Really armed." On the main screen, Jake could see the approaching ships. They looked nothing like the elegant vessel Zethka had been flying. These were built for war, with thick armor and weapons covering their hulls. They moved through space like sharks hunting prey. "Incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer Beth Adams. "They want to talk." Jake straightened his shoulders. "Put them through." The screen flickered, and suddenly Jake was looking at his first hostile alien. The creature was similar to Zethka, but different in important ways. Where Zethka's crystalline skin was a peaceful blue, this alien's was darker, almost purple. His forearms were covered in what looked like military decorations, and his eyes held no warmth at all. "I am Captain Vexthorn of the Dominion Navy," the alien said. His voice was cold and commanding. "You will immediately surrender the war criminal Zethka to Dominion justice." Jake kept his voice calm and steady. "I'm Commander Jake Miller of the Earth Vessel Ranger. We don't know anything about your war, and we don't surrender people who ask for our help." Captain Vexthorn leaned forward, his large eyes studying Jake with surprise. "Earth? Human? There are no records of your species in our databases. You are unknown to the Dominion." "We're new to space travel," Jake admitted. "But we're not new to doing what's right." The alien captain made a sound that might have been laughter, but there was no humor in it. "You speak of right and wrong as if you have a choice. You have one of our fugitives aboard your vessel. Return him now, and we will allow you to leave unharmed. Refuse, and we will take him by force." Jake felt the eyes of his crew on him. One word from him could start a war between Earth and this Dominion Empire. But he also thought about Zethka, lying in their medical bay, trusting them to keep him safe. "We gave our word to protect him," Jake said. "We don't break our promises." Captain Vexthorn stared at Jake for a long moment, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You would risk your ship and your lives for a criminal? For someone who is not even of your species?" "He's not a criminal," Jake replied. "He's someone who tried to stop war crimes. And yes, we'll risk our lives to protect him. That's what we do." The alien captain shook his head slowly. "Your species is either very brave or very stupid. I have not decided which." The transmission cut off. "Commander," called out Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks from her station, "they're powering up weapons. All 3 ships." Jake's mind raced. The Ranger was built for exploration, not fighting. Against 3 warships, they had no chance in a straight battle. But maybe they didn't need to fight. "Karen, plot a course for the asteroid field. Best speed. Sir, that field is dangerous. One wrong move and we'll hit a rock." "That's what I'm counting on," Jake said. "Lisa, can you give me everything the engines have?" "Already working on it," Lisa replied, her fingers flying over her controls. "But Commander, those ships are faster than us." "They'll catch up?" "Maybe," Jake said, "but they're also bigger. Tony, charge all weapons. We might not be able to hurt them much, but we can make them think twice about getting too close." Weapons Specialist Tony Clark nodded grimly. "All weapons ready, sir." The chase began as the Ranger dove into the asteroid field. The 3 Dominion ships followed, but more carefully. The field was filled with floating rocks, some as small as cars, others as big as buildings. One collision could destroy any ship, no matter how well armed. "They're gaining on us," Karen reported. Distance closing fast. Through the ship's corridors, Jake could hear the engines straining as Lisa pushed them beyond their limits. The Ranger shook and rattled as it weaved between the asteroids, following Karen's expert navigation. "Incoming fire," Tony announced. Blue energy beams flashed past the ship, lighting up the asteroids around them. The Dominion ships were firing, but carefully. They wanted Zethka alive, which meant they couldn't just blow up the Ranger. "Return fire," Jake ordered. The Ranger's smaller weapons struck back, hitting the lead Dominion ship. The enemy vessel's shields flared but held. It was like throwing rocks at a tank. "Direct hit, but no damage," Tony reported. Jake wasn't surprised. But the return fire seemed to anger the Dominion captain. The enemy ships moved closer, firing more frequently. One beam struck the Ranger's rear shields, and the ship shuddered under the impact. "Shields down to 60%, Lisa called out in the medical bay. Dr. Sam Rodriguez was helping Zethka to the bridge. The alien fugitive moved slowly, still weak from his injuries, but he insisted on helping. There, Zethka pointed at the navigation display when they reached the bridge. That asteroid, the large one? It has metals that will interfere with their sensors. Karen looked at Jake, who nodded. The Ranger changed course, diving toward the massive asteroid Zethka had indicated. The Dominion ships followed, but as they got closer, their formation began to spread out. They're having trouble tracking us, Beth reported. Their communications are getting fuzzy too. Jake felt a moment of hope. Can we hide behind it? Better than that, Zethka said, his voice growing stronger. These asteroids sometimes have caves, natural formations that will completely hide us from their sensors. It took 20 minutes of careful flying, but Karen found what Zethka had described. A cave in the asteroid large enough for their ship, formed by some ancient collision. The Rangers slipped inside just as the Dominion ships rounded the asteroid's far side. They waited in the darkness, engines powered down to minimum, hoping the enemy would pass them by. Through the ship's hull, they could hear the vibrations of the Dominion vessel's engines as they searched. They're scanning everything, Beth whispered, as if the enemy might hear her voice. But the asteroid's metals are blocking them. After what felt like hours but was probably only 30 minutes, the engine sounds faded away. The Dominion ships had moved on, continuing their search in other parts of the asteroid field. They'll be back, Zethka said quietly. Captain Vexthorn is not one to give up easily. He has been hunting me for 2 years, Jake looked at his crew. They had just survived their first space battle, but it wouldn't be their last. We need to get you somewhere safe. Where can we go? Zethka was quiet for a moment, thinking. There are worlds that resist the Dominion. The free colonies, they call themselves. Independent planets that refuse to bow to Dominion rule, if we could reach them. How far? Jake asked. 2 weeks' travel, maybe 3. But the journey is dangerous. The Dominion patrols the space lanes, and there are pirates who prey on refugee ships. Lisa looked up from her damage reports. We can make the trip, but we'll need to repair our shields first, and we'll need supplies. Jake made his decision. We'll find a way. Zethka, will these free colonies help us? The alien's crystalline face showed something that might have been hope. I do not know. But they are the only ones who might stand against the Dominion, and perhaps your people's courage will inspire them as it has inspired me. What do you mean? Jake asked. Zethka looked around at the human crew, and Jake saw wonder in his large eyes. In all my travels across the galaxy, I have never seen people risk so much for a stranger. The Dominion teaches that only family matters, that loyalty beyond blood is weakness. But you have shown me something different. You have shown me that there can be honor between strangers, kindness between different species. He paused, his voice growing softer. When I was captured and tortured by the Dominion, I thought I would die alone and forgotten. But you found me and you chose to save me, even though it brought danger to your own people. This gives me hope that perhaps others will make the same choice. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. They had made enemies of a galactic empire, and there was no going back. But looking at his crew, he saw the same determination in their faces that he felt in his heart. Then we better make sure we reach these free colonies, Jake said. Karen, plot a course, but keep us away from the main space lanes. If we're going to do this, we're going to be smart about it. As the Ranger carefully left its hiding place and began the long journey to free colony space, Jake couldn't help but wonder what they were getting themselves into. They were just one small ship against an entire empire. But they had something. The Dominion didn't understand. The willingness to fight for what was right, even when the odds were hopeless. Behind them, in the asteroid field, Captain Vexthorn's ships continued their search. The alien captain stood on his bridge, staring at the scanner displays with growing frustration. They cannot have simply vanished, he told his officers. Find them. Search every asteroid, every piece of debris. I want that fugitive, and I want to know more about these humans. The hunt was far from over. The journey to free colony space took 3 weeks instead of 2. Jake Miller and his crew had to avoid the main shipping routes, taking longer paths through empty space to stay hidden from Dominion patrols. During those long weeks, Zethka slowly recovered from his injuries and began teaching the humans about the galaxy they had entered. "Your species is very young in space," Zethka explained to Jake as they sat in the ship's small meeting room. "Most races take thousands of years to develop faster than light travel. You have done it in less than 100. Communications Officer Beth Adams was working with Zethka every day, learning his language and teaching him more about human speech. "He's incredibly smart," she told Jake. "He already speaks our language better than some humans I know." What amazed Zethka most was learning about human history. Dr. Sam Rodriguez had given him access to their historical databases, and the aliens spent hours reading about Earth's past. "You have fought many wars," Zethka observed one day. "But you have also fought against slavery, against those who would oppress others. This concept of fighting for people you do not know, it appears throughout your history," Jake nodded. "We're not perfect. We've made plenty of mistakes, but we try to learn from them. The Dominion does not learn," Zethka said sadly. "They only conquer. For them, strength is the only truth that matters." Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks had been studying the data from Zethka's destroyed ship. "Commander, you need to see this," she said, calling Jake to the engineering section. "The weapons that hit his ship, they're more powerful than anything we've ever imagined. One of these energy beams could destroy our entire ship." Jake felt a chill. "How many ships does the Dominion have?" "Thousands," Zethka answered. "Maybe tens of thousands. They have been conquering worlds for centuries." The crew fell silent at this news. They were one small ship with basic weapons against an empire that could destroy planets. But Jake noticed something else in the data Lisa had collected. "Their technology is powerful, but it's also old," Jake said, studying the readings. "Everything is built the same way, like they haven't changed their designs in decades." Zethka's large eyes brightened. "Yes, you see it too. The Dominion believes their way is perfect, so they never improve. They build the same ships, use the same tactics, fight the same way they have for 100 years. But we're different," Lisa said, understanding. "We adapt, we change, we try new things." "Exactly," Zethka replied. "It is why I have hope. The Dominion does not know how to fight an enemy that thinks differently." 3 days later, they finally reached the edge of Free Colony space. The first thing they saw was a battle. Two free colony ships were fighting a single Dominion cruiser, and they were losing badly. The enemy ship was larger and better armed, and one of the colony vessels was already burning and drifting. "We have to help them," Jake said immediately. Tony Clark looked up from his weapons console. "Commander, we can't hurt that cruiser. Our weapons are too weak." Jake studied the battle on the main screen. The Dominion ship was focusing all its firepower on the larger colony vessel, trying to finish it off quickly. The smaller colony ship was trying to distract it, but without success. "We don't need to destroy it," Jake said. "We just need to confuse it. Lisa, can you overload one of our power cores? Make it look like we're going to explode?" Lisa's face lit up with understanding. "A fake self-destruct. Make them think we're going to ram them. Yes, I can do that." The Ranger dove toward the battle at full speed. Jake opened communications to the Dominion ship. "Dominion vessel, this is Commander Miller. Release those ships or we'll ram you." The Dominion captain appeared on screen, his purple face twisted with anger. "You are the humans who harbor the Fugitive. You cannot harm us with your primitive ship." "Maybe not," Jake said calmly, "but we're going to try." Lisa began overloading the power core, and energy readings spiked across all the Rangers' systems. To any ship scanning them, it would look like they were about to explode. The Ranger continued its attack run, heading straight for the Dominion cruiser. At the last second, the enemy captain lost his nerve. The Dominion ship turned away from the colony vessels and fired at the Ranger instead. But Jake had been counting. On this, Karen White sent the ship into a spinning dive that avoided most of the enemy fire, while Lisa vented the overloaded energy in a brilliant flash that looked like an explosion. They think we're destroyed, Beth reported, monitoring Dominion. Communications. The enemy ship turned back to finish off the colony vessels, but it was too late. The Free Colony ships had used the distraction to escape into hyperspace. The Dominion captain, realizing he had been tricked, fired a few angry shots at empty space before jumping away himself. Well, Jake said, settling back in his chair. That was exciting. An hour later, the 2 Free Colony ships returned with reinforcements. Jake found himself talking to Captain Ray Davis of the colony ship Freedom's Call, a grizzled man who looked like he had been fighting this war for years. That was the craziest thing I've ever seen, Captain Davis said over the communication link. You made a Dominion cruiser run away with nothing but a light explorer. How? We convinced him we were willing to die, Jake replied. Sometimes that's enough. Captain Davis was quiet for a moment. You're the humans everyone's been talking about. The ones who saved the Vorthek fugitive. Jake glanced at Zethka, who was standing beside him on the bridge. Word travels fast out here. Faster than you might think. The Dominion has been asking questions about your species on every world they control. They want to know where Earth is, how many ships you have, what your weaknesses are. This news worried Jake. Earth had only 12 ships in deep space, and most of them were explorers. Like the Ranger. If the Dominion decided to attack Earth, there would be very little to stop them. We need to talk to your leaders, Jake said. All of us need to work together if we're going to survive this, Captain Davis nodded. Follow us to New Haven, our capital world. Fair warning, though, they might not believe what you've told them about helping people for free. That kind of thinking died out in most of the galaxy a long time ago. The flight to New Haven took 2 days. Jake used the time to send a message back to Earth, warning them about the Dominion and requesting permission to share human technology with the free colonies. He knew it was a big decision, one that could change Earth's future forever. New Haven was a beautiful world, with blue oceans and green continents that reminded Jake of Earth, but as they approached the planet he could see the signs of war everywhere. Orbital defense platforms surrounded the world, and damaged ships were being repaired in massive space docks. Colony. Administrator Paul Johnson met them at the main spaceport. He was a tired-looking man with gray hair and worry lines around his eyes. Welcome to New Haven, he said. Though I'm not sure it's much of a welcome these days. Jake shook the man's hand. We're here to help however we can. Administrator Johnson led them to a conference room where several other colony leaders were waiting. General Linda Foster, the military commander, was a stern woman who studied Jake and his crew with sharp eyes. Captain Davis tells us you drove off a Dominion cruiser with nothing but an explorer ship, General Foster said. That's either very brave or very stupid. Probably a little of both, Jake admitted. Zethka stepped forward. General Foster, I have information about Dominion fleet movements and military plans. Information that could help you win battles. The room fell silent. General Foster leaned forward in her chair. What kind of information? For the next 3 hours, Zethka shared everything he knew about Dominion military operations. Supply routes, fleet positions, planned attacks, weaknesses in their defenses. The colony leaders listened with growing excitement as they realized what this intelligence could mean. With this information, we could actually fight back, General Foster said. We could hit their supply lines, ambush their patrol fleets. Administrator Johnson looked at Jake. And what do you want in return for this help? Nothing, Jake said simply. We want to stop the Dominion from hurting innocent people. That's reason enough. The colony leaders exchanged glances. They clearly had trouble believing that anyone would help without expecting payment. There is something, Jake continued. We need to share information with our homeworld. Earth needs to know about the Dominion threat. And if you're willing, we'd like to share some of our technology with you. What kind of technology? General Foster asked. Lisa Brooks spoke up. Our sensors are different from yours. Our defensive systems work in ways the Dominion has never seen. And our tactical thinking, well, as you saw with the cruiser, we don't fight the way they expect. Dr. Rodriguez added, Our medical knowledge might help too. We've learned a lot treating Zethka's injuries. Some of our techniques might work on your wounded. Administrator Johnson shook his head in amazement. You're offering to give us military technology, medical knowledge, and tactical support, and you want nothing in return? We want the Dominion stopped, Jake said. We want people to be free to choose their own governments, to live without fear. If that's what you want too, then we're on the same side. General Foster stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the damaged ships in orbit. Commander Miller, do you know how long we've been fighting this war? 2 weeks after the meeting on New Haven, Jake Miller stood on the bridge of the UES Ranger, watching the largest fleet he had ever seen prepare for battle. 30 human ships had answered Earth's call for volunteers, joining with 60 free colony vessels in the first joint operation against the Dominion. It was still a small force compared to the enemy's massive fleets, but it was a beginning. All ships report ready, Commander, announced Communications Officer Beth Adams. She had been working overtime to coordinate between human and alien crews, and her translation skills had become vital to the operation. Jake looked at the tactical display showing their target, a Dominion supply depot in the Zarian system. According to Zethka's intelligence, the depot supplied 3 entire Dominion fleets with weapons, fuel, and replacement parts. Destroying it would hurt the enemy badly. Signal all ships, Jake ordered. Begin the attack. The mixed fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the depot's location. Jake had expected heavy defenses, but what he saw surprised him. The depot was huge, easily the size of a small moon, but it was guarded by only 6 Dominion warships. The enemy had grown overconfident after decades of easy victories. General Linda Foster's voice came over the communication system from her flagship. All free colony ships, attack formation Alpha. Human ships, you're with me. The battle began immediately. The Dominion ships moved to intercept the attacking fleet, but they were outnumbered and caught by surprise. Jake watched as the human ships performed maneuvers that clearly confused the enemy. Captain Ray Davis, now flying with the human fleet, led his fighter squadron in a zigzag pattern that made it almost impossible for Dominion gunners to target them. They don't know how to fight us, observed Navigation Officer Corinne White. Look at how they're responding. They keep trying to predict our moves, but we're not following any pattern they understand. Pilot Ray Davis proved this point when he led his fighters straight at a Dominion cruiser, then suddenly scattered in all directions at the last second. The enemy ship fired at where the fighters had been, hitting nothing but empty space, while the human pilots struck from 6 different angles. Direct hits on the cruiser's engines, reported weapons specialist Tony Clark. It's losing power. But the real surprise came when Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks activated her new invention. She had been working with Free Colony engineers to modify human shield technology, creating something no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. Lisa, are you ready with the surprise? Jake asked. Ready, Commander. All human ships have the new shield modification installed. The Dominion ships focused their fire on the human vessels, expecting to destroy them quickly with their superior weapons. But when the energy beams hit the modified shields, something unexpected happened. Instead of absorbing the energy or deflecting it, the shields actually sent it back at the attacking ships. It's working, Lisa shouted with excitement. The reflected energy is overloading their own shields. Within minutes, 3 of the 6 Dominion warships were dead in space, their shield systems burned out by their own reflected weapons fire. The remaining 3 ships tried to retreat, but General Foster's Free Colony ships were waiting for them. The space battle was over in less than an hour. More importantly, the supply depot was now defenseless. Jake led a boarding party onto the massive station, accompanied by Zethka and teams from both human and free colony ships. The depot's interior was like a vast warehouse filled with military supplies. There were weapons, ammunition, spare parts for ships, and enough fuel to supply a fleet for months. But what caught Zethka's attention was something else entirely. Commander Miller, you need to see this, Zethka called from a computer terminal. These are shipping records. The depot supplies much more than just 3 fleets. Jake studied the alien writing on the screen while Zethka translated. This says they're sending supplies to 15 different fleets. And look at this, they're planning a major offensive against the free colonies in 2 months. The information was invaluable. Jake immediately contacted General Foster and Administrator Johnson on New Haven. We need to get this intelligence to all the colony worlds. The Dominion is planning something big. But even more important than the intelligence was what happened next. As human and free colony crews worked together to secure the depot, Jake noticed something he had never seen before. Aliens who had been fighting this war for decades were laughing and joking with human soldiers. Species barriers that had existed for centuries were disappearing. Dr. Sam Rodriguez was treating wounded from both fleets in the depot's medical bay. "Commander, you should see this," he said, showing Jake a group of injured free colony pilots. "They're asking me to teach them human medical techniques. They say our methods work better than what they've been using." At the same time, human engineers were learning from their alien counterparts. Lisa Brooks was particularly excited about free colony power systems. "Their energy technology is centuries ahead of ours," she told Jake. "But they're amazed by our defensive systems and our ability to improvise repairs." The most surprising development came from an unexpected source. Captain Vexthorn, the Dominion officer who had been hunting Zethka, arrived at the depot 3 days after the battle with a small fleet of ships. But instead of attacking, he requested permission to board the depot under a flag of truce. Jake met the alien captain in the depot's main conference room, with Zethka and General Foster present. Captain Vexthorn looked different from their first meeting. The anger was gone from his eyes, replaced by something that looked like confusion. "I have come to see for myself what you have done here," Captain Vexthorn said. "My superiors tell me you are savages who torture prisoners and destroy everything in your path, but my scouts report something very different." Jake gestured to the depot around them. "See for yourself. We've taken your supplies, but we haven't hurt anyone who surrendered. Your wounded are being treated alongside ours." Captain Vexthorn walked through the depot, observing the mixed crews working together. He stopped at the medical bay, where Dr. Rodriguez was treating a Dominion soldier who had been injured in the battle. "You treat our wounded?" the captain asked. "We treat everyone who needs help," Dr. Rodriguez replied. "That's what doctors do." The alien captain was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "In 30 years of service to the Dominion, I have never seen an enemy show mercy to prisoners. We are taught that compassion is weakness, that only strength matters." Zethka stepped forward. "That is why I became a fugitive, Captain. I could no longer serve an empire that calls mercy weakness." Captain Vexthorn looked at his former prisoner with new eyes. "When you escaped, I was ordered to hunt you to the ends of the galaxy. I was told you were a traitor who had sold military secrets to enemies of the state. But now I see what you really are. You are someone who chose conscience over orders." Jake sensed an opportunity. "Captain, you could make the same choice. Your people don't have to keep fighting this war." "It is not so simple," Captain Vexthorn replied. "The Dominion controls everything. Our families, our homes, our very lives belong to the state. To rebel means death, not just for us, but for everyone we care about." "But you're here," General Foster pointed out. "You came here under a flag of truce instead of attacking. That tells me you're already having doubts." Captain Vexthorn was quiet for several minutes, studying the humans and free colony personnel around him. Finally, he spoke. "I will return to my fleet and report what I have seen. But I make no promises about what I will do with that report." After the Dominion captain left, Jake felt both hope and worry. Hope that they might be changing hearts and minds even among their enemies, but worry about what would happen when the Dominion leadership learned about their defeat. The answer came sooner than expected. 3 days later, long-range scouts reported a massive Dominion fleet heading toward free colony space. Not the 15 fleets mentioned in the depot's records, but 25 fleets. The largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. "They're not just planning to defeat us," General Foster said during an emergency meeting. They're planning to wipe us out completely. Every free colony world, every human ship, everything. Administrator Johnson looked pale. How long do we have? 2 weeks, maybe 3, General Foster replied. They'll hit New Haven first. It's our capital and our strongest world. If they take it, the other colonies will fall like dominoes. Jake studied the strategic reports with growing concern. Even with their recent victories, the combined human and free colony fleets numbered less than 200 ships. The approaching Dominion force had over 1,000 vessels. We can't win a straight fight, Jake said. We need to be smarter than them. Zethka had been quiet during the meeting, but now he spoke up. There is something you should know about this fleet. The records from the depot mentioned its commander. Admiral HFY, the most feared military leader in the Dominion. He has never lost a battle. The room fell silent at this news. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Somehow, they had to find a way to defeat an enemy that outnumbered them 5-1, led by an undefeated commander using the largest fleet in galactic history. Then we'll have to make sure his first loss is his last one. The morning of the battle, Jake Miller stood on the bridge of the UES Ranger, watching the largest fleet he had ever seen prepare for what might be the last fight of their lives. 260 ships floated in formation around New Haven, representing 3 different groups that had never worked together before: humans, free colonies, and Dominion defectors. Long-range sensors show the enemy fleet approaching, announced Navigation Officer Karen White. Admiral HFY's force numbers 1,023 ships. They'll reach us in 4 hours. Jake felt his stomach tighten. Even with their recent allies, they were still outnumbered almost 4-1. But he had learned something important over the past few months. Numbers didn't always decide battles. Sometimes courage and determination mattered more. Signal all ships, Jake ordered. Battle stations. Throughout the combined fleet, crews prepared for the fight of their lives. Human engineers worked alongside free colony technicians to make final adjustments to their modified weapons and shields. Dominion defectors shared intelligence about their former fleet's tactics and weaknesses. In the medical bay of the Ranger, Dr. Sam Rodriguez was preparing for casualties while Zethka helped organize supplies. The alien fugitive had insisted on staying aboard Jake's ship, saying he wanted to be where the fight began. Are you ready for this? Jake asked Zethka as they watched the enemy fleet appear on the long-range displays. I have been ready for years, Zethka replied. Ever since I first saw what the Dominion was willing to do to innocent people. Today, we finally have a chance to stop them. The enemy fleet was an impressive sight. Admiral HFY had brought the most powerful ships in the Dominion Navy, including massive battleships that could destroy an entire city with a single shot. The formation was perfect, disciplined, and terrifying. Incoming transmission from the enemy fleet, reported communications. Officer Beth Adams, Admiral HFY, appeared on the main screen. He was larger than any alien Jake had seen before, with dark purple skin marked by scars from old battles. His forearms were covered in military decorations, and his eyes held no mercy at all. I am Admiral HFY of the Dominion Grand Fleet, the alien said. His voice was cold and commanding. You will surrender immediately and submit to Dominion justice. Resist, and every world in this system will be destroyed. Jake stepped forward. I'm Commander Jake Miller, representing the Human Free Colony. Alliance, we won't surrender. These people have the right to be free. Admiral HFY studied Jake with obvious contempt. You are the humans who started this rebellion. Your species will be the first to be eliminated, as an example to others who think they can defy the Dominion. We've defied you before, Jake replied calmly. We'll do it again. The transmission ended. Admiral HFY had made his intentions clear. This would not be a battle for territory or resources. This was a war of extermination. All ships begin evasive maneuvers, Jake ordered. Remember the plan. We're not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We just need to break their formation and create chaos. The battle began when the two fleets were still far apart. Long range. Weapons from the Dominion ships reached out across space. trying to destroy the smaller Alliance vessels before they could get close. But the Alliance fleet didn't behave like any enemy the Dominion had ever fought, instead of charging straight. At the enemy in formation, the Alliance ships scattered in all directions. Human vessels used their superior maneuverability to dodge between the massive Dominion battleships. Free colony ships attacked from unexpected angles. Most surprising of all, the Dominion defectors knew exactly where their former fleet's weapons couldn't reach. "It's working," reported weapons specialist Tony Clark. "They're having trouble targeting us. Their guns are too big and slow to track our smaller ships." Captain Ray Davis, leading the human fighter squadrons, proved this point. When he led his pilots straight through the enemy formation, the massive Dominion ships couldn't fire on the small fighters without hitting each other. So Ray's squadron struck at engine ports and weapon systems with no opposition. But the real surprise came when Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks activated the Alliance fleet's secret weapon. Over the past week, she had worked with engineers from all three groups to create something unprecedented, a network of linked shield systems that could share energy between ships. "Lisa, are you ready?" Jake asked. "Oh. Ships report linked and ready, Commander." Initiating shared shield network. When Admiral Kethvior's battleships fired their main weapons at the Alliance fleet, expecting to destroy dozens of ships with each shot, something amazing happened. The energy from the attacks was absorbed by the linked shields and redistributed throughout the entire network. Ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting, their shields recharged by energy from their allies. "Impossible," Admiral Kethvior's voice came over the communication channel. "No one has technology like this." "We do now," Jake replied. "Because we learned to work together." The battle raged for 3 hours. The Alliance fleet used every trick they had learned, every innovation they had developed, and every advantage their cooperation gave them. Human creativity, free colony determination, and Dominion tactical knowledge combined into something the galaxy had never seen before. But slowly, the superior numbers of the enemy fleet began to tell. Alliance ships were destroyed one by one, and there seemed to be no end to the Dominion reinforcements. Jake watched his tactical display with growing concern as their forces were pushed back toward New Haven itself. "Commander," Karen reported, "we've lost 40% of our fleet. The enemy still has over 800 ships operational." Jake was about to order a fighting retreat when something unexpected happened. Captain Vexthorn's voice came over the communication system, but he wasn't calling from his ship. "All Dominion vessels. This is Captain Vexthorn broadcasting from New Haven. I call upon you to lay down your weapons and join us in fighting for freedom instead of oppression." Throughout the Dominion fleet, ships began to slow their attacks. Captain Vexthorn continued his broadcast, describing what he had seen of human compassion and free colony courage. He spoke of wounded enemies being treated with care, of different species working together as equals, of fighting for something greater than conquest. "The Dominion teaches us that strength comes from fear," Captain Vexthorn said. "But I have learned that true strength comes from hope, from working together, from protecting those who cannot protect themselves." Admiral Kethvior tried to cut off the transmission, but it was too late. Throughout his fleet, ship after ship began to turn their weapons away from the Alliance forces. Some even began firing on other Dominion vessels that continued the attack. "Mutiny!" Admiral Kethvior snarled over the communication channel. "Traitors and cowards, all of you." But the mutiny spread faster than he could stop it. Within an hour, half of his fleet had either surrendered or joined the Alliance. The sight of Dominion ships fighting alongside humans and free colony vessels was something that would be remembered throughout galactic history. The final confrontation came when Admiral Kethvior, commanding the last group of loyal Dominion ships, made a desperate attack on New Haven itself. Jake led the defense, with Zethka at his side providing tactical advice. "He's targeting the civilian population centers," Zethka observed. "He would rather destroy the planet than admit defeat." Jake made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. Instead of fighting the Admiral's flagship directly, he opened a communication channel. "Admiral Kethvior, I challenge you to single combat." "Your ship against mine," Winner takes all. The alien admiral's laughter was cold and harsh. You would face me alone? Your tiny ship against my battleship? Very well, human. Let me show you the price of defying the Dominion. The duel between the Ranger and Admiral Kethvoar's massive flagship was brief but decisive. Jake used every trick he had learned, every advantage his ship's unique design gave him. When the Admiral's weapons overloaded trying to track the small, fast-moving Ranger, Chief Engineer Mike Turner managed to get close enough to disable the battleship's main systems. Admiral Kethvoar's ship drifted powerless, its weapons dead, its engines silent. The fight was over. "This is impossible," the Admiral said when Jake's boarding party reached his bridge. "A primitive ship cannot defeat Dominion technology." "It wasn't technology that beat you," Jake replied. "It was the fact that we fight for something you don't understand. We fight for each other." The aftermath of the battle changed the galaxy forever. With Admiral Kethvoar's defeat and the defection of most of his fleet, the Dominion Empire began to crumble. World after world declared independence, inspired by the example of the Human Free Colony Alliance. Jake Miller was offered command of the new Democratic Alliance fleet, but he politely declined. "I'm an explorer," he told the Alliance Council. "There are still wonders out there waiting to be discovered." Zethka accepted the position of ambassador between Earth and the Alliance worlds. "I will spend my life building the bridges between species that you showed me were possible," he told Jake Dot as the Ranger prepared to leave New Haven for new adventures among the stars. Jake reflected on how much had changed. What had started as a simple rescue mission had become a revolution that transformed the entire galaxy. "Where to next, Commander?"